The voice wasn't a warning, it was a death knell. $75,000, my father said, for my fiancé, and my world dissolved. I was Clara Sterling, 30 years old, living in Denver, Colorado. That afternoon, my perfect life was a lie. I was standing outside my father's study, the heavy oak door a thin barrier to the conversation that was tearing my soul apart. I'd only come to drop off the mock-ups for my wedding invitations. Cream paper, gold lettering. So beautiful, so fake. $75,000, Alex, plus the vice president position. The words echoed in my head like gunshots. Alex, my Alex, the man I was supposed to marry in 2 months. My stomach dropped through the floor. I couldn't breathe. That is generous, Alex replied, not shocked, not confused, not disgusted. He was just negotiating. A cold, calculating tremor ran through me. Something felt profoundly wrong. My father's voice, calm and precise, continued. Jessica needs someone like you. She's delicate. Emma will recover. She always does. She's soft. Jessica, my cousin, my father's favorite, and I was soft. That one word, soft, didn't just break something inside me, it pulverized it. It was the summation of every dismissive glance, every casual put-down, every time he chose her over me. Give it 2 more weeks, my father instructed, as if discussing a stock portfolio. End it cleanly, 2 weeks, to end our 3-year relationship, to discard me like trash. I didn't scream, I didn't cry. Not then. I simply turned, my legs moving as if controlled by strings. I walked out of that house, got into my car, and disappeared. My mind was a terrifying blank slate, numb to the pain. I didn't know it yet, but that day wasn't the end of my life. It was the beginning of my war. The next 2 weeks were a blur of performance. Alex became subtly distant, his eyes always a little too empty when he looked at me. He'd cancel plans, citing urgent work. He'd forget things, small details about our future. Each slight was a tiny knife twist. I watched him, searching for a flicker of remorse, a hint of the man I thought I loved. There was nothing, just cold calculation. I kept my silence. I wore my perfect smile. I went to work pretending everything was fine, while inside a frozen landscape stretched as far as my mind could see. My heart felt like a block of ice, and beneath it a slow, burning rage began to simmer. I knew he was going to break up with me, I just didn't know how or when. But that was just the beginning of my torment. The day he did it, he took me to our favorite park, the one where he proposed. The symbolism was a cruel joke. He sat on the bench, not even looking at me as he spoke. Clara, this isn't working. I don't think I can do this anymore. His words were rehearsed, hollow, no tears, no real apology, just an empty gaze and a quick exit. Packed his things from our apartment that same afternoon while I watched, utterly silent. My father called an hour later, full of false sympathy. Clara, darling, I'm so sorry. He wasn't good enough for you. You'll find someone better. His voice was a poisonous balm. I hung up without a word. Jessica called too, her voice dripping with pity. Oh, Clara, I'm so sorry. Alex seemed so perfect for you, but you know, some things just aren't meant to be. The false concern was almost unbearable. I thought that was the worst part. I was wrong. My father doubled down on the emotional manipulation. He started setting me up on blind dates, parading a series of suitable bachelors, each one vetted by his exacting standards. He wanted me to move on. He wanted me to forget. He wanted me to be happy, but only on his terms. He wanted to maintain control. Every phone call, every visit was a reminder that I was soft, that I needed his guidance. He even suggested I take a sabbatical from my job to clear my head. My job, which I loved, was my only real independence. His subtle pressure felt like a cage closing in. I could hear his words echoing in my mind. Emma will recover. She always does. She's soft. He wasn't just talking about a breakup. He was talking about my entire identity. He was trying to erase me, but the real gut punch came when I saw them together. Just 3 weeks after Alex dumped me, my father hosted a small family dinner. Alex was there, sitting next to Jessica, his arm around her, smiling, the same smile he used to give me. My heart literally convulsed in my chest. I felt a wave of nausea so strong I had to grip the table. Jessica caught my eye. Her smile wasn't pitying anymore, it was triumphant. Alex looked away, but not before I saw a flicker of something in his eyes. Not regret, not shame, something else. Something I couldn't quite decipher. And I didn't know it yet, but it was already too late for him. That night, alone in my apartment, I broke. The tears came hot and furious, a torrent of pain and betrayal. I cried until my throat was raw, until my body was shaking. I hated him, I hated her. Most of all, I hated myself for being soft, for letting them do this to me. I hated my father for his cold manipulation, for his constant need to control my life, for always preferring Jessica. Jessica, who always got everything. The best grades, the lead in the school play, the attention of every boy. She always needed more. And now she had Alex, bought and paid for. This wasn't just about a broken engagement. This was about a lifetime of being second best, of being overlooked, of being deemed not enough. I hit rock bottom that night. I felt hollowed out, empty. I considered just disappearing, fading away. But then, as the tears subsided, something hardened inside me. A core of steel I never knew I possessed. If my father thought I was soft, he was about to learn a very hard lesson. I realized I couldn't just move on, I had to fight back, but I had to be smart. This wasn't going to be a messy outburst. This was going to be a calculated strike. My first step was to change everything about myself, not for them, but for me. I quit my job, the one my father wanted me to take a sabbatical from, but found a new one. A job that took me out of Denver, away from their poisonous orbit. I started in a different city, a different state, thousands of miles away. It was a marketing role, something I was good at, something that required strategic thinking and a keen eye for detail. Something my father had always dismissed as not serious enough. I also started therapy, not to heal from the breakup, but to unpack years of my father's insidious control, to understand the roots of his favoritism towards Jessica. What I learned shocked me. My father wasn't just a controlling patriarch. He was a master manipulator, always playing people against each other, always seeking to consolidate power. He saw everyone as a chess piece. And I had been a pawn. I worked tirelessly, not just at my job, but on myself. I trained physically and mentally. I learned coding in my spare time. I pored over financial reports, understanding the intricate web of corporate structures. I became obsessed with details, with patterns, with vulnerabilities. My father's company, Sterling Corp., was a successful, publicly traded entity, but every empire has cracks, and I intended to find them. I spent months, then a year, meticulously researching Sterling Corp. I used my new coding skills to delve into public records, SEC filings, any information I could get my hands on. I pieced together a disturbing picture. My father was not just paying Alex to marry Jessica, he was using Alex. The VP position was real, but it was in a newly acquired subsidiary, a high-risk venture. Alex wasn't just getting paid off, he was being set up as a fall guy. In the $75,000, it was a down payment. There was a much larger sum, a significant trust fund set up for Alex and Jessica, contingent on their marriage and Alex's continued employment in that specific subsidiary. It was a golden handcuff. My father was ensuring Alex stayed exactly where he wanted him, under his thumb. The deeper truth began to unravel. My father's facade of the benevolent patriarch, the successful businessman, began to crack under my scrutiny. He was over-leveraged. His company was secretly struggling, using aggressive, questionable accounting practices to keep up appearances. The acquisition of that subsidiary, where Alex was now VP, was a desperate gamble. He needed Jessica's family. Her family held significant shares in a rival company, shares that my father desperately needed to acquire to survive. Alex marrying Jessica was not just about control. It was a desperate, financially motivated move disguised as a romantic pairing. I felt a cold thrill. This wasn't just about my broken heart anymore. This was about uncovering a house of cards. I built a network of contacts, subtly, carefully planting seeds of doubt, sharing anonymous tips with industry insiders and financial journalists. I didn't just want Alex and Jessica to fall. I wanted the entire Sterling empire to feel the tremors of its own rotten foundation. This was my calculated revenge, slow and precise, but I needed the perfect stage. That stage presented itself 3 years later, my brother's wedding. The same brother who had offered me bland platitudes after my breakup. The same family who had dismissed my pain as being soft. I flew back to Denver, a different woman. No longer Clara Sterling, the soft girl, but Clara Sterling, the sharp, successful, and utterly ruthless strategist. I walked into the reception hall. The elegant chandeliers, the scent of white roses, the soft hum of conversation. And then silence. Their eyes found me, my father standing next to Alex and Jessica mid-conversation. Alex's face went from pale to ashen. Jessica's triumphant smirk dissolved into a look of sheer panic. My father, usually so composed, visibly faltered. I was no longer the girl they had dismissed. My hair was shorter, sharper. My dress, a sleek emerald green, spoke of quiet confidence, not a desperate need for approval. My eyes, once expressive and vulnerable, now held a cool, unwavering gaze. I smiled, a slow, predatory curve of my lips. "Hello, everyone," I said, my voice clear and steady. It's been a while. The small talk was agony for them. Every glance was a question. Every casual comment was a veiled threat. I savored it. My plan was already in motion. Over the past 3 years, I had quietly acquired a small, strategic block of shares in Sterling Corp., not enough to take over, but enough to demand certain information. Enough to be heard. As the evening wore on, the tension in the room grew palpable. Alex kept glancing at me, a frantic fear in his eyes. Jessica clung to his arm, her former confidence shattered. My father's movements were stiff, his smile forced. He knew I was up to something. He just didn't know what, but the moment of truth was coming. During the father of the groom speech, a tradition my father loved, I made my move. He spoke of family, of loyalty, of integrity. It was pure hypocrisy. As he finished, I stood up calmly, purposefully. "Father," I said, my voice cutting through the applause, That was a beautiful speech, but there's a certain kind of integrity I think we all need to discuss. He blanched. Alex and Jessica looked like ghosts. A low murmur started through the crowd. Clara, not now, my brother whispered, his face etched with concern. I ignored him. You see, I continued, projecting my voice clearly, 3 years ago my father decided my engagement wasn't suitable. He decided my fiancé Alex was better suited for my cousin Jessica. I paused, letting the bomb drop. Whispers turned into shocked gasps. He even offered him a substantial sum of money, $75,000 to be exact, plus a vice president position in a newly acquired subsidiary. Alex began to shake. Jessica gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. My father's face was a mask of furious white. Clara, this is outrageous, he roared. Is it? I challenged, my eyes unwavering. Because that $75,000 was just the beginning, wasn't it, Alex? There was also a substantial trust fund, contingent on your marriage to Jessica and your continued employment in that subsidiary. A subsidiary, I might add, that my father knew was failing. A subsidiary that was, in fact, being used to hide significant losses and inflate Sterling Corp's overall valuation. The room erupted. Guests were on their phones. Journalists I had anonymously tipped off were already outside, ready to pounce. My father's carefully constructed world was crumbling. This wasn't just about breaking my heart, Father, I said, my voice laced with cold satisfaction. This was about corporate fraud. About using your family as pawns in a desperate gamble to save your failing empire. Alex was supposed to be the fall guy, and Jessica merely a bridge to her family's shares to prop up your failing venture. Alex finally spoke, his voice trembling. She's lying, she's just bitter. Am I? I pulled out my phone, a recording device in my hand. Then perhaps you'd like to explain this. I played a short audio clip, carefully edited from a discreet recording I'd made during a family dinner a year ago, where Alex, drunk and boasting to a friend, clearly detailed the payment structure, the trust fund, and his role in the failing subsidiary. The betrayal in his voice was undeniable. The room descended into chaos. Reporters burst through the doors. Flashes went off. My father, cornered, looked like a defeated king. Alex and Jessica were swarmed by questions, their faces contorted with fear and shock, and then the final twist. As my father stared at me, his eyes blazing with hatred, I spoke again, loud enough for the microphone-wielding reporters to catch. And the reason my father needed Jessica's family so desperately, because his own fortune, the one he built on lies and manipulation, was already gone. He lost everything in a series of disastrous investments years ago, and he's been trying to cover it up ever since. Sterling Corp isn't just struggling, Father, it's insolvent. And Alex and Jessica, they married into a company that was already bleeding out, controlled by a man who had nothing left to lose. A hush fell. My father's face, which had been red with rage, went utterly blank. He looked like a man who had seen a ghost. The ultimate irony. He tried to control everyone, to engineer a perfect future based on deceit, only to have his entire house of cards collapse, not just personally but financially, in front of everyone who mattered. His empire wasn't just crumbling, it was already dust. He had nothing left. I had destroyed his reputation, exposed his fraud, shattered his family facade, and revealed him to be a financial ruin. The vice president position Alex coveted, worthless. The large trust fund, contingent on the company's performance, a mirage. Jessica had married a man bought by a bankrupt father and gained a future based on an illusion. My work was done. I turned and walked out of the reception hall, leaving the chaos behind me. I wasn't soft anymore, I was free. And as I stepped into the cool Denver night, I finally felt the bitter taste of poetic justice. Wow, I didn't see that coming.